Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification.
What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah.
This country is a piece of
White.
folks,
White.
trash,
White supremacy.
white woman, white boy.
Is there a black person around here?
There's a black person right here. Does he not
They gon'
exist?
say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.
The last couple weeks have seen a lot of distractions in the 2024 race. News stories about weirdness and couches and whatever else. The media want to distract because the political issues all cut in Trump's favor. So here's one issue worth talking about. There's a new study out that shows that Americans are dying younger. The study's lead author, Penn State professor Jessica Ho, explains that, quote, one of the main drivers of why American longevity is so much shorter than in other high-income countries is that our younger people die at higher rates from largely preventable causes of death, like drug overdose. Terrible statistic. The country is dying, absolutely, and at higher rates than comparable countries. The country is dying younger because younger people are dying. Younger people are dying from drug overdoses. Drug overdoses are occurring because fentanyl is pouring across the border and poisoning otherwise non-lethal drugs. Fentanyl is pouring across the border because border czar Kamala Harris refuses to close the border. It's a simple fact. It's the sort of fact the media want desperately to avoid. And it is the sort of fact that could sway many, many votes to President Trump. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. 1 in 5 voters and 1 in 3 Republicans thinks the FBI was behind the Trump assassination attempt. Why is that? We'll get into it. First, though, I want to set the stage. I want to set the mood. I want to light up my Sicilian summer candle. You know, summer is drawing to a close, my friends. Get your Sicilian summer candle before it's too late, before we all move into the PSL season. You can get all those candles, PSL, Sicilian Summer, Old Soul, Hemdi Lachem, Wise Man, the Mayflower candles, all of them at thecandleclub.com. Don't forget thecandleclub.com. We're talking about really basic issues here. That's what the media don't want to talk about, so that's a good sign that that's exactly what we should talk about. I understand that Americans dying younger than comparable countries is not the sexiest issue. It's really sexy and memey and internety and weird to talk about, you know, couches and weirdness, actually, for that matter, and joy and the black women of color being the first to break the historic glass ceiling of achievement, of accomplishment, of joy, and whatever, you know, all that gobbledygook that they're trying to push. But how about a simple question? Hey, lady, Kamala, you're the VP. The White House is now saying you're sort of the president. Why are Americans dying younger? Oh, because of fentanyl that you are allowing across the border. That's an issue that would drive me to go vote, especially these days when everyone, it seems, knows someone who has been affected by the worst drug crisis in American history, that is being intentionally promoted by Kamala Harris, whose job it is to resolve the border problem. Here's another example. Inflation is up 20.2% since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took office. Now, the Democrats want to blame Trump and the Republicans for this. And the way that they can get away with it, at least a little bit, is they can say, well, the massive spending that led to the inflation began under Trump's presidency because it began during COVID and COVID started on Trump's watch. Okay, I guess you could say that. It's true, Trump was the president, but who was pushing all the massive spending? All the massive spending was being pushed by the Democrats. When the Democrats were pushing all that crazy spending, it was guys like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and the Republicans who were saying, no, we got to cool it on this spending. The Dems pushed for it. It's sort of like blaming Trump and the Republicans for the COVID lockdowns and the school closures and the masking rules and the social distancing. Yeah, sure. These things did occur while Republicans were in office, while President Trump was president, but they were all being pushed by the Democrats. And the Republicans only gave into it reluctantly because they were backed into a corner and Democrats still wielded some political power. So, and to say nothing of the terrible economic policies and the spending policies under Biden himself. Notably, the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which even liberal analysts observed would make inflation worse. And inflation has been really, really bad. Prices up 20.2%. That is a Democrat issue. The libs don't really want to talk about it. Those are the sort of things we have to shine a light back on it. Back when Joe Biden was the nominee, people were talking about those kinds of problems because he just faded into the background, and we weren't even sure if he was alive or dead. Now the libs are propping up Kamala Harris. The only way they can talk about that, or the only way rather that they can achieve that, is by stopping her from talking. Well, okay, that all ends at the debate. So what do we focus on at the debate? There are all sorts of things we could attack. Kamala peddling racial identity in a way that she totally flipped on. Kamala running to the left, running to the center, being an empty suit, this and that. You could run, but she is currently the vice president. The White House is pretending she's sort of the president. Okay, then hold her accountable for how terrible everything has gotten on their watch. Now, speaking of prices, there's some really good news. If you want a ticket for Burning Man, you can get it probably at a pretty good price right now. Burning Man is not selling out. What is Burning Man, you ask? Well, you would be asking that question if you're a little bit older or if you're very young. Burning Man is millennial Woodstock. Burning Man is millennial Bacchanal, some kind of Dionysian festival from ancient Greece, but just in modern, hippy-dippy, new agey world. You just go to the desert and do a bunch of drugs and then go home. Burning Man has been really, really popular for more than a decade. For that period of time, Burning Man tickets have sold out almost immediately, sometimes in a matter of minutes. Burning Man was the Taylor Swift concert of its day, but now, less than 2 weeks before the festival kicks off, there are still tickets available. People don't want to go to Burning Man. And I love this because Burning Man is really bad. I mean, you could probably ascertain my opinion of the festival from how I described it, but it's just a weird pagan. But it's not even as cool as it's just like a sad, modern, liberal simulacrum of. So it's really weird. And you go to the desert and worship some idol and do things that are not conducive to your flourishing. But the good news is people aren't going anymore. And this is a vindication of the wisdom. If you marry yourself to the spirit of the age, you'll find yourself a widow in the next. The most devastating. You could always critique Burning Man for being occult and new agey and decadent and debauched and bizarre. You could always, but now you can attack it for not even being cool, because all of these fads, they fade away. We make fun of the hippies from the 60s and the early 70s, but they were kind of cool at the time. Now we look back on them and we mock them because they seem like total losers. But that's true whenever we give into spiritual fads, the fashionable heresies and bizarre behaviors of our age. They pass away. And the things that endure are true religion, for starters, but even at a lower level, tradition endures. And so we mock the old fogies who are traditionalists, but think about it with fashion. If you buy a powder blue tuxedo with ruffled shirts and big bell bottoms, you might seem hipper than the guy wearing a classic black tuxedo in 1974. But by 1984, you're going to look like a joke. You're going to be mocked. People are going to make fun of your prom photos. If you wear the classic black tuxedo, you're going to look pretty good regardless of the age. This is true in political forms. It's certainly true of religion. If you go with true religion, you might not always seem like the hippest, but that religion's going to be enduring. Those political views even are going to be enduring. Do not fall for the burning men of politics, society, culture, and religion. We need to restore balance to nature out there in the desert with Burning Man and throughout our whole country. That's why you got to check out Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Knowles. Balance of Nature fruits and veggies are the most convenient way to get whole fruits and vegetables daily. Balance of Nature takes fruits and vegetables, freeze-dry them, turn them into a powder, and then put them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows what to do with them. Balance of Nature is just one ingredient of a balanced lifestyle and has no intention to replace a healthy diet, exercise, sleep, or any other healthy habits. It's intended to be used in concert with other healthy habits. I strongly recommend you all go check out Balance of Nature right now, and then you can be like all the really cool guys here at the office who pounce on them and take those packages. Even for me, sometimes I wouldn't pay attention to my physical health, but I was reading a great book by Augustin Gilbert Sertilange, a Dominican, the church order, not the island in the Caribbean. And he said you have to have a fit body, to have an intellectual life. So for all those reasons, go to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code Knowles, 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Get a free bottle of fiber and spice. Balanceofnature.com, promo code Knowles. Speaking of changing times, going along with various fads, Kamala Harris's campaign has just declared it will not support Medicare for all. A campaign official told Peter Doocy, who's the Fox News White House correspondent, that Harris will not be pushing the subject of single-payer healthcare, Medicare for all. She's not pushing that, okay? And it's a dastardly Republican lie to suggest that she would. Where on earth would Republicans get the idea that Kamala Harris supports Medicare for all?
I want to give credit to Bernie. Take credit, Bernie. You brought us this far in Medicare for all. I support Medicare for all. I always have.
That was September 12th, 2019. I support Medicare for all. I always have. Now her campaign says she will not support Medicare for all. She will not support single-payer health care. She couldn't say it more clearly, and she's said it in other places than that. So we come to one of two conclusions. Either Kamala is lying to us now, or she has no principles. Because notice, she's not even saying, Bernie, I think this might be kind of an interesting idea. She's saying, I support Medicare for all. I've always supported Medicare for all. So what is it? Is she lying now, or does she have no principles? Why not both? She is certainly lying to us now. She's lying to us about a lot of things. Her campaign's lying to us about how she supports closing the border. She could do it tomorrow if she actually believed that. And also, she doesn't really have any principles. But I do think she believes in this idea. So how is she getting away with it? She's getting away with it. No one really cares about the obfuscations and the constantly changing her mind and lying to your face and gaslighting you and all the rest. Because everyone knows that she is subservient to the Democrat machine. No one views her as an individual with ideas. They all view her as a lieutenant who just got promoted, who's going to go along with whatever the machine says. It's kind of like Al-Qaeda. Forgive the comparison between the Democrats and Al-Qaeda, but with Al-Qaeda, for decades, there'd be a guy at the top or toward the top, maybe the number 2, the number 3 guy, and we'd go in and we'd drone him or we'd shoot him or we'd figure out some way to kill him. And then what would happen? The next guy would just pop up in line. And then 6 months later, we'd get rid of that guy. And then the next one would pop up in line and nothing would really change about the organization. The machine remained the same. The names just changed. So the same goes for Joe Biden. Joe Biden was an empty suit and then he got sniped out. Figuratively, not Donald Trump literally was sniped. Joe Biden was figuratively sniped by his own party, taken out of the race. And so, okay, like a Pez dispenser, the next one pops right up, but nothing really changes. She doesn't have all that much power. She'll go along with whatever the campaign officials and the Democrat elites tell her to do. And this doesn't bother the base because the base trusts the Democrat machine. What's funny is that Republicans have the opposite issue. Donald Trump is not just a Republican machine politician. Donald Trump in 2016 succeeded at a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. And there are a lot of voters who trust Trump, but they don't trust the GOP establishment. Trump has his own ideas and he pushes his own ideas, and sometimes the GOP establishment really hates it. Sometimes the GOP establishment keeps its mouth shut, but it's the opposite here. For the Republicans, it's all about the individual, this guy Trump, who's really shaken up the party. For the Democrats, the individual doesn't mean anything at all. Kamala could go away tomorrow. It could be Mayor Pete. Nothing about the campaign would change. Nothing about the campaign has changed from Biden to Harris. Now, there are some ways to make Kamala individually, particularly unlikable to a lot of Americans. And the issue, it should have been the first thing that we thought of, but the issue that seems to have the most currency on individuating Kamala Harris and really making her unlikable to suburban voters, centrist voters, even center-left, is the one that we've all been talking about for years. Now, some Democrats are upset with Harris right now and with her campaign. And the reason they're upset is because the nearest thing to new ideas that Kamala is pushing are ideas she stole from Trump. The clearest example being the Harris campaign's new effort to get rid of taxes on tips. And she came out just some days ago and said, this is my new campaign platform. We're going to end taxes on tips. And even the White House reporters asked Karine Jean-Pierre, they said, is this a new idea or did you guys just like totally copy Donald Trump's homework? Did you totally steal it from the Trump campaign? And even Karine Jean-Pierre, she said, well, I don't know, it's not a new idea exactly, but anyway, we're pushing it now. We're on the no tax on tip side. But this puts certain Democrats like Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden or Debbie Stabenow from Michigan or Lloyd Doggett, who's the senior member of the House Ways and Means Committee in the lower chamber. This puts them in a bad position because this is the problem when your party is inclined toward caprice and totalitarianism, when they're not really guided by any enduring principles beyond, if it feels good, do it, liberation, power, give me more power. When the will to power is really all that motivates you, then your positions could change radically day by day. What happened here is Trump came out, he said, this is my policy proposal. The Democrats, like good lieutenants, come out, they say, Trump says this is good, so we say this is bad. And then Kamala comes out and says, actually, Trump's idea, that's my idea now. Then the compliant media and the propagandists come out and they say, yeah, that's Kamala's idea. But then this handful of Dems who were just being good, loyal Democrats attacking whatever Trump wanted to do. Now these guys look like jerks because now they're opposed to the Kamala Harris policy. That's what happens, man, when you work for Stalin. That's what happens when you work for political leaders who are guided solely by the arbitrary use of their will rather than by any objective and reliable conception of justice. Now, when you want to go out there and fight for justice, you got to make sure your body's in good working order. You got to check out Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com, use promo code Knowles. The Olympics have come to a close, but Good Ranchers is extending its offer for new subscribers to get a free gold medal add-on for the next 4 years. You can enjoy free plain chicken breasts, Angus ground beef, applewood bacon, or wild-caught salmon in every order for the next 4 years. Plus, with my exclusive code Knowles, you will get an additional $25 off your first box. That's up to $1,200 in savings when you subscribe. I adore Good Ranchers. The quality is off the chain. I was actually just hanging out with the Good Ranchers guys yesterday. The stuff that they've got planned is unbelievable. I don't know how they keep the doors open because the company's growing by leaps and bounds and so many people have subscribed and it's basically pretty much the only place I get my meat. A few things, maybe if I run out, we got to go to the store. But the problem is the prices are so good. The quality is so good. I don't really know how they manage to do it. It's a wonderful partner of this show. They're also huge supporters of Paralyzed Veterans of America. Every order supports American farms and American veterans. If you're a proud American, go to goodranchers.com. Get $25 off your first box, free express shipping, your free add-on for 4 years. Don't miss this summer special. Goodranchers.com, promo code Knowles. Goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. Speaking of arbitrary power, perhaps the organization other than the federal government that is best able to wield arbitrary power in the world today is probably Google. Google controls the internet. Google controls something like 90% of the flow of information around the internet. Google controls advertising on the internet, which means that Google controls the media. Google controls, has a lot of sway with corporations all over the world. Google controls the biggest video platform that many of you might be watching this show or a highly censored version of this show, to our point. Right now, Google controls everything. But Google's not the government. But Google's not really a private enterprise. So what is it? Well, what we do know is that the DOJ is deliberating breaking up Google. And they're doing this because of a court ruling that has found that Google is guilty of monopoly, of illegally monopolizing online search and search text advertising markets. As someone who is very much in this world, I can tell you they own it, especially the advertising. They own it. Facebook's got a little touch, but it's Google. Google owns online advertising, and Google obviously owns search, so Google owns the internet. The court says that's an illegal monopoly. Now the DOJ is considering breaking it up. And you are seeing a huge variety of reactions to this, even on the political right. This is one of those issues that is going to separate the conservatives from the libertarians. You know, sometimes conservatives and libertarians, we are in lockstep, you know, defending gun rights or something. We're together. Defending the right to life. Well, actually, that's not. Some libertarians are pro-abortion, but that actually leads to the separate group. This issue, how you come down on this issue, will separate the conservatives from the libertarians, and further, it will separate the real libertarians from the group that we call the lolbertarians, you know, or the left-wing libertarians, the kind of the libertarians who end up just flacking for the libs. The real conservatives are going to applaud this possibility. Good. Google should be broken up. Google has way too much power. Google is wielding that power wrongly. Google is wielding that power unjustly for bad ends, and Google is opposed to the common good in so much of its practice. So got to break that stuff up. Libertarians might say, hey, look, it's a free market, man. If you don't like Google, build your own Google. You know, we can never use the government, the evil government, to break up a beautiful, noble corporation, you know, an instantiation of the true exalted principles of the free market. Why, yes, Sundar Pichai and Google, they're basically like a utopia. They're like Galt's Gulch, and all hail the great corporations. That sometimes you hear that from libertarians. And then you get the lolbertarians, you know, the left libertarians who just shill for the regime, and they'll come up with whatever answer conduces to leftism. But I don't mean to make fun of the libertarian position here too much, because yeah, you have to be worried about the government overstepping. I'm all for a robust and effective and efficient government within the proper sphere of the government with protect. You know, you don't want it to be arbitrary and capricious. You don't want it to be totalitarian or something. But the people who are defending Google here, I think they just don't know anything about Google. The people who are defending Google on free market grounds, the people who are preposterously suggesting that if you don't like Google's monopoly, build your own Google, I think they seem to forget that Google was started by the government. When Google began, its founders, Brin and Page, were on a comp sci team at Stanford. This institute, this research team, received a ton of funding from the massive digital data systems program. The MDDS program was managed by the Central Intelligence Agency, it was a CIA program, and the National Security Agency. Google has always had a very, very cozy relationship with the federal government. Lots of military contractors, lots of intelligence contractors in and out of that organization. This is not exactly a mom and pop on Main Street, okay? So unfortunately, what the free market kind of argument, build your own Google argument ends up doing is it protects all the worst parts of this pseudo crony capitalism. No. Google, it does all the dirty work of the government. When the government doesn't want to get its hands too dirty, when the government doesn't want to overtly censor you for being a conservative, when the government doesn't want to overtly surveil you for whatever reason, they'll get their allies in the supposedly private sector to go out and do it for them. But the government will also massively fund these groups, work with them very closely. There will be people in government who go into Google and then from Google back into government like a revolving door. Break it up, baby. We see the effects of this. You can either break it up because in principle you're afraid of private enterprise having too much power or government having too much power. In the case of Google, it's kind of both. Or you can just break it up because the effect of it in America is bad. They push crazy lib stuff every day, even on like Christmas, on major holidays. They're always promoting in their Google Doodle some radical left-wing thing. That we know the politics of Google. We know that virtually all of their political donations go toward Democrats. We know that they want to rig the election for the Democrats. So yeah, break them up. Fine by me. Now, speaking of shadowy, powerful cabals, 1 in 5 voters and 1 in 3 Republicans thinks that the FBI is behind the Trump assassination attempt. Why would they think this? Probably they would think this because the director of the FBI lied about what happened. That would be one reason. One, because it just seems implausible that Trump could be permitted to be shot in the head. It just seems everyone was tracking this shooter for a long time, potentially hours before the rally, and then they just let Trump go on stage. People were calling out saying, there's a guy on that roof, he's got a gun. Trump was permitted to remain on stage. A lot of that seems implausible to people. But then you could say, well, maybe it's just incompetence, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Then we found out Trump was denied extra security by the U.S. Secret Service. That's kind of weird, by the Biden administration. Okay. But then the Secret Service lied about that. And then the FBI director, testifying before Congress, lied and said, we don't know if Trump was shot with a bullet. The FBI itself then issued a statement saying, no, we do know Trump was hit by a bullet. So is the FBI director, Christopher Wray, just the dumbest guy on planet Earth, the most ignorant man ever to hold that job? Or was he lying? I don't know. I do know that 1 in 5 voters think the FBI tried to murder Trump, and 1 in 3 Republicans thinks that. I'm not saying that I think that. I'm reading what voters are thinking, and I'm pointing out, I'm defending the voters who think that. Because it's weird, sure, that the Secret Service and the FBI both lied about it. It's weird that it was allowed to happen in the first place. And furthermore, the very fact that voters think this presents a major, major problem for the FBI and for the government. We were touching on this a little bit last night, backstage live at the Ryman. The government is the government because it claims authority. That's what makes the government the government. It's not because the founding fathers were the most perfect men who ever walked the earth and they waved their magic wands and said, now this government is legitimate. It's not because of some piece of parchment called the Declaration of Independence. It's not even because of some piece of parchment called the Constitution. The government is the government because you obey the government. Even if you hate the government, even if you don't think Joe Biden's alive anymore, you will follow the laws. We assent to the authority of the state. Now, why do we do that? We do that because they'll put us in jail if we don't, or take all of our money, or otherwise make our lives difficult. That's one reason. But the other reason we do it is because the government makes a plausible claim to represent justice. This is why Christians say, this is why we read in Scripture, that the government is actually good in that God institutes the government for our own good, because we need to have order. We need to have the enforcement of laws. We need to have some kind of peace and stability in order to achieve our natural ends, feeding our families, having kids, and to achieve our natural ends. It's difficult to pray and live out a religious life in the midst of carnage and civil war and anarchy. So the state is a good thing. It's implemented for our good. And it means that the ruler, in the Christian understanding, and really in the classical understanding of the state, the ruler has limits on his power, because he is, in paganism, he's bound to the gods, or in Christendom, he's bound to the true God. He has a duty to him. And he's doing a job for the people. It's not that the people exist for the ruler exists to serve the people. And he's doing that because he's been entrusted with this authority by God. And where do we get the laws from? Is it just from the whims and caprices of the ruler? No, we get it from the moral order that we can perceive, because the natural law is inscribed on every human heart and through our faculties of reason. And we get it from justice. The ruler is a representative of justice. The problem is when the people lose faith in the Justice Department. This is the worst part of the government for people to lose faith in. Then the authority of the government goes away. This is the difference. In modernity, we're very confused about a lot of political things, but the classical thinkers understood there's a distinction between a king, a monarch, and a tyrant. What's the difference? Does anyone really think that Charles III is a tyrant? No, I don't think so. That the King of Spain is a tyrant? No. But they are kings. So what's the difference? The king rules for the common good, and he rules for justice. The tyrant rules for his own private interest, and he rules based on his arbitrary will. The increasingly arbitrary will that the left seems to be exercising day by day, changing their minds on all manner of political issues, lying, saying one thing and doing another, bringing the media along, and attacking and potentially even establishing the conditions to kill their political opponents. That's a big problem. It's not just about we need to drain the swamp or something. When this number of people think that the FBI could possibly have tried to kill Donald Trump, you're dealing with an existential crisis of the legitimacy of the regime. Today is the day, folks. Presale tickets are available right now at amирacist.com for Matt's new movie. Matt asked the question no one dares to ask. Well, a lot of people have dared to ask it, but Matt does it in a really incisive and funny way. And so we need your help. The more presale tickets we sell, the more theaters will show the movie. Your ticket purchase is a direct blow against the leftist narrative. Am I Racist hits theaters September 13th. Go to amирacist.com right now and buy those tickets. My favorite comment yesterday is from Joshua D. Geis. Her moment, after 3.5 years, in the ever so lowly position of vice president. Yeah, this is Time Magazine. This is her moment. Reintroducing Kamala. Reintroducing her. Hey, everybody, meet Kamala Harris. She's the vice president. She was a senator. She ran for president. She was the Attorney General of California. People are supposed to know who she is. But no. They knew one version of her that it was convenient to know at the time. But now that she's running for president and the media want her to be president, now they've got to invent a new version of Kamala. And we're in the process of that. That's why she's changing all her positions. Now, speaking of people trying to kill Trump, this is a story from last week, but I want to get to it. A Pakistani man with alleged ties to Iran has been arrested and charged for trying to kill out Trump, to carry out multiple assassinations, one of them being killing Trump. The case was just revealed by the Justice Department. There have been a number of attempted assassinations of Trump. A lot of powerful people are trying to kill Trump. So why is the story coming out now? I think in part the story is coming out now because the liberal establishment wants to prepare Americans for a war with Iran, as Iran is threatening Israel, and the United States is not going to let Israel fight a war on its own. So it's just kind of baked into U.S. Policy that we'll defend a number of nations, but we're out there spending a ton of money and military equipment defending Ukraine, and we're going to defend Israel, which we have a longer relationship with and a stronger relationship with. So in part, I think the reason the story is being leaked right now is just to say, hey, look, hey, remember, Iran's really bad, and they even tried to kill Trump, so get ready to go to war with Iran, which I think is cynical, but it's my only explanation because there have been plenty of attempts to kill Donald Trump before. There have been plenty of terrible things Iran has done that when it was convenient for the liberal establishment, they downplay them. They don't talk about it. They send pallets of cash to the mullahs in Iran. They forget about it. You don't have to worry about it. Now, however, oh yes, okay, Donald, they tried to kill Trump again. Yeah, okay, the libs are trying to kill Trump too. You don't make as big a deal about that. The president, Joe Biden, is establishing the premises to kill Trump when he says that Trump poses an existential threat to the country. Joe Biden speaks in much harsher terms about Donald Trump than about Iran or really any foreign adversary. So I have no doubt that this happened. I have no doubt that Iran wants to kill Trump. Iran talks about how they want to kill Trump because Trump killed Soleimani, the chief Iranian general. So yeah, sure. I'm sure that's happening. What are Republicans going to do as a result of this? Well, we got to get a little tough on Iran. Sure, that's good. Get a little tough on our adversaries, but for what purpose? For peace. And that's what separates the Republicans here from the Democrats. It hasn't always been the case, but in this election, it does. Republicans still need to run on a platform of peace. And part of this is just that blessed are the peacemakers, and part of this is that it distinguishes the Republicans from Biden. Under Trump, the world was relatively pretty peaceful. Under Biden, wars have broken out all over the place. The American people want restraint. The American people are tired of endless wars. This is true on the left and on the right. The anti-war faction on the right is growing in size, and there is still a sizable anti-war faction on the left, and we could win some of those voters. And it's the traditional Republican position. Foreign policy restraint was the old school GOP position until really the 2000s. Foreign policy adventurism was the domain of the left. Restraint has a powerful appeal. Got it? Not isolation. I mean, this is what Reagan said with peace through strength. Reagan was a restrained president, even when the Beirut barracks were blown up and a lot of American servicemen were killed. Even then, Reagan pulled the troops. He showed a great deal of restraint, and he was a very popular Republican president and the nearest model for the Trump presidency. That's another way. Any way you can find little wedges, any ways to just pry off 10,000 voters here, 100,000 voters there from Kamala, we need to take those options. Now, speaking of narrow appeal and pulling little votes away from Kamala and maybe Trump, RFK Jr., according to reports, has been trying to meet with the Harris campaign to discuss a cabinet position. This being reported here on MSN. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. tried to meet with Kamala Harris to discuss a cabinet job. Wait a second. I thought that RFK Jr. was just in the race to try to get a position in the Trump administration. Well, maybe he probably would like a position in the Trump administration too. But wait, he'd work for Harris? Yeah, he'd probably work for Harris too. Hold on, he's going to pull some votes from Trump? He might. He's going to pull some votes from Harris? Yeah, he will. Probably more votes from Harris than Trump, but yeah, of course. Of course he's meeting with both sides. He's not going to be president. But he could pull enough votes to matter in the election. So he's going to trade those votes for leverage, and he's the perfect guy to be talking to both sides because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is half a lib and half not a lib. Wouldn't say he's really a conservative on any issue, but he's heterodox for the Democrat Party. He's a little bit out there, and so yeah, he's going to play both sides. And there's a little appeal to that too. If Bobby Kennedy Jr. could get 4% of the vote, that's the election, depending on where he's getting those votes. And so it's silly. We can laugh at the Kennedy campaign. I would be trying to work those voters. Or at the very least, I'd be trying to push Bobby Kennedy to the left so that he's more inclined to pull voters from Harris. Now, speaking of these polls, how do things stand? You're going to hear a lot of doom and gloom that Kamala is rising in the polls, and it's true. I'm sure she is rising in the polls a little bit. According to one poll just came out, Daily Mail Jail Partners Survey, Trump is still ahead. Some polls are showing that Harris is ahead and pulling ahead in the swing states. This poll says Trump is ahead nationally by 2 points. And everyone's going to argue, no, but this poll's better than this poll, and Nate Silver said this, but Rasmussen said this, and whatever. The only thing that matters right now is the upcoming debate. And spending money. Spending money does matter. The nuts and bolts of the campaign to just get the message in front of people. Kamala Harris has been blanketing the internet with her ads, especially YouTube. The Trump campaign needs to get the message out there, I think. But beyond that, beyond the kind of bare minimum campaigning, the only thing that matters right now is the debate. It's the only thing that could really change anything. The media are never going to change and become fair. Kamala is not going to voluntarily speak to the press. She's terrible at it. Whatever problems you have with Trump, the man is at a somewhat advanced age. He's reached an age of maturity. He's probably not changing all that much in his comportment. So the only thing, unless they try to shoot him again, the only thing that could change right now is the debate. So I don't worry about those polls. It's like watching the polls right now is like watching your stock portfolio during market turmoil. All it's going to do is drive you crazy. There's really not very much to be done. Sure, could Trump swap out some staffers? I guess. Sure, could the Trump campaign be spending more money on ads? Yeah, they probably should. Sure. Nothing is really going to move the needle like the debate. Sometimes you've just got to wait it out. He could try to get more debates. That would be a good thing too. But just yelling louder or something isn't going to change the fundamentals. The day-by-day poll numbers don't really matter. We just need to make sure that the debates happen, that Trump wins, that one hopes there are multiple of them, and the message gets out before the early voting kicks in, because that's another way that the Democrats have tried to rig the election. That's what really matters right now. Okay, there's much more to say. But you know me, I'm a tease. And I'm going to refrain from saying it. Today is Theology Thursday. The producers, even as we were at the Ryman last night, everyone's been working basically 48 hours straight. The producers have prepared a very important activity for all of us in the Membrum Segmentum. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you
I'm
left.
trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification.
What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging
I want
there.
to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of
White.
Folks, trash.
white supremacy.
White woman. White boy.
Is there a black person around here?
This black person right here, does he not
They gon'
exist?
say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.